Because we are relying so much on some of these technology solutions, we just say, kids, it's time, this class period is all on Zabelzoot, right? Like, hop on there, you're going to do your whole class on this today. And pretty soon, not only are you losing engagement, even if it is super fun, there aren't a lot of guardrails, right?
Right.
But also they're losing the opportunity for real life interactions.
Welcome back to Education Uncharted. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Amanda.
And today we're going to talk about technology in the classroom, how teachers can use it effectively and how students can to both engage students and promote learning.
I want to start with, because I know that we could probably talk forever about the other thing. Let's first talk about all of the good things, right? Because there are so many good things. And there are a ton of teachers who are like, please don't give me another technology option. I've got so much going on. But I want to make sure that we're really talking about the reasons why technology can be so helpful and so useful in the classroom. Because sometimes, like I said, we can feel overloaded and then nothing feels good. So let's remind ourselves what technology can do really well for us. So I feel like the first piece that sometimes gets missed with technology, because you think like, oh, it's engagement, like you're getting kids involved, right? It's the ability to differentiate instruction, 100%. Right? Using a device, using a technology tool. Lisa, tell me about some of the ways that you were able to differentiate instruction in your classroom using tech.
Well, right now, we've had so much development in the computer adaptive learning and computer adaptive technology. So students can be working on a lesson and it will accelerate or slow down or review depending on where they are. So I know one of the things that was great is like Lexia, right? So when students, especially at the beginning, are learning words, you can have an elementary classroom with 30 different reading levels, and that takes a long time to get through to each of the individual pieces. But with using something like Lexia or iExcel or some of the other programs they start by analyzing their deficits and where they're good, and then give them tailored lessons specifically for them. So students can be at different levels the entire time, and then you can have time to pull groups while they're working to give that additional individualized instruction. So like Lexia, iExcel is another great one with all the different subject areas. And then it's also aligned to the standards immediately. So you can say, this is what I'm working on in the classroom. This is what they need to study for the test. This is what they still need to work on, and give them those specific lessons to work on versus letting the entire class sit through another lesson on multiplication facts when 20% of the students or 80% of the students already have that down. So being able to move faster or slower depending on the student needs.
Fantastic. And these tools did not exist when I was in the classroom. That's definitely dating myself. Like I recognize that things have come a long way. Even in the last 5 years, we've really, really made some great strides in being able to provide that computer adaptive learning. But one of the things that I did do was I used PowerPoint, but I used it to help me manage my classroom, because what I would do is I would create these slide decks, and basically they were cues to help my students recognize, like, where are we in the progression of class and what do I need to do next, right? What can I expect is coming next? And where are we in the space of my learning for the day? So they were basically allowing for students to not need to like reframe everything every time that we're moving on to another thing. They were like, I know this. I recognize that this is where we are. And like they got to a point where it was like you could hear them getting out their notebook without even having to say so, because the slide was already like, they understood that that's what we're doing next.
So there's no starting with, what are we doing today? It's
Correct.
listed exactly.
It was right there. And I mean, I used visual cues. They would recognize the same imagery. They would recognize the steps and the titles. So they knew where we were. And for students who have trouble with transitions, it was a huge piece of classroom management.
Adding timers to it.
Absolutely.
So saying we have 10 seconds left in class and then you're going to need to do this, or just being able to see that timer and know where it's not dragging on and on and on. And
that helped me, because if I was teaching something new that I hadn't taught before or was trying something different, I didn't want to run out of time. Right? So teaching in high school, there's only so much time that you have in a class. And so I would know, like, by this time, I need to be on this slide, or I'm not going to have enough time for students to do exit slips.
Right.
So that was, while it feels old fashioned now, that was still tech in the classroom that helped me in a way, and also helped students.
Well, moving on or adding on to PowerPoints, now I know Canva is great. And there's so many different elements that really allow the students to collaborate and to be working together, whether they're in the classroom or not. So I know my own children and my students would easily be able to all contribute to the same slide or add in elements like video or voiceovers. Super, super easy. So now, I mean, for 6th graders and 7th graders to be able to use Canva, which most adults can't use.
For sure.
I mean, it's great, but because the technology is intuitive and it's easy to add in these elements and search for images and put in engaging things. So it's great. And then teachers can also use it for, like you said, with timekeeping, but also getting their message out to more people and to the parents. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted the students to read a book or give an overview and give a book talk, I can make it really engaging on Adobe or on Canva, and then I can share it to my website, I can share it to the parents, and then the parents know exactly what's going on as well. So that's super helpful.
Where else do you feel like technology can improve engagement in your classroom, in the stuff that you're meant to be studying, that you're meant to be practicing with in the class?
Yeah. So we do a lot of test prep. And test prep, I mean, sometimes we have to stop teaching 3 weeks ahead of time just to get ready for tests and get ready for things. And that is so dull and dry and boring, and the kids hate it. But throw some test prep questions on Kahoot or do a GIM kit and let the kids play with it. So now we're getting micro learning versus just sitting around and using booklets and workbooks and worksheets. But now we're adding that competitive element. We can add little videos to it, and the kids want to participate because there's an instant reward. And I mean, we have to acknowledge the fact that the kids today are used to working with video games and quick scene changes and flashy lights and cute music. And so when we adapt our learning or classroom instruction to meet the kids where they are, they're more likely to want to participate and want to do it.
And things like Kahoot, you can create your own as a teacher, or you can use pre-made quizzes. Yes. So if you are like, I just need something to prep us for this concept quiz that we're going over, there's probably something out there for you to choose from. Right. In fact, Propello has, at least Propello UK, so some of that stuff is going to be relatable for our US
that's great.
As well. Propello does have some Kahoots out there, and I think that's something we'll be continuing to develop.
Well, you know what else is good for that is if you're absent or if you're a brand new teacher to a subject area, you can teach the same stuff. You can have the same level of engagement without having that learning curve, because you can just pull in an activity. And you know the teachers, if let's say it's a Kahoot and the answers are already there. You don't have to have them use an answer key and give the wrong information. So you have the continuity of learning, even if you're not in the classroom or even if you're brand new to teaching or brand new to the subject area. How many people get pulled in and need to take over a block of ELA when they're a science teacher or vice versa?
Or vice versa. Right. One more quick pro is if you're using technology to deliver curriculum, right? So if you're using a curriculum provider that is also a technology solution, one of the things that I think is really spectacular is that if you're teaching a fact-based subject, that stuff can be updated immediately when the science changes, because we know science gets updated, right? When something new happens and we need to add a piece of information into the social studies workbook, like the Queen passed away, right? Like now there's a king in the United Kingdom. So like we would update that and it's there immediately. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wait for your 7-year cycle to get the most updated information. Technology allows for curriculum to be updated immediately with the most correct information.
Yeah, and I don't know, but when you have something that's brand new and it's the first thing, like a new discovery of like a new mushroom, or it wasn't a new bee or something, just something, an insect was just discovered. Immediately that information can get to the students and it's in their hands and it's timely and they'll start seeing it in the world. So they'll see news articles on it. They'll see magazine articles. People will be talking about it. Might be even some TikToks about it, right? But they're going to see it in the real world and they'll be like, hey, I learned that in class and I found that out, versus using a print curriculum, which is also going to be riddled with mistakes. I mean, wasn't that like a fun game to play, is how many people could find a spelling mistake in a textbook?
I totally sat in class when I was a kid and was like, I'm going to write textbooks because this one is so messed up. I could do better. I'm like a third grader reading my textbook. Like, that's missing a comma. It's like, yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. And those things get repaired immediately when you're using technology. So yeah, definitely a pro for using tech in your classroom.
But let's talk about some of the cons as well.
Yeah, I think we all know that device distractions in the classroom can really derail learning. And it might not be class-wide, but for individual students who just have a hard time monitoring their self-control. Yes. You know, if you've got a classroom full of really any device, it's pretty easy to just hop on over to YouTube and watch a couple videos on your favorite video game when you're supposed to be, you know, working through a science problem.
Right. Or even the rabbit holes you can go down. So I know with researching, you start researching a topic, so sharks, and then that brings you to under the sea, and then it brings you to The Little Mermaid, and that brings you
the new Little Mermaid movie, and then it's all
everything. So you were researching, and so it wasn't intentional to get off target, but it just happens, and so it's there and it's flashing, and click this link and click this link. The other challenge is when so much can be just developed. So not necessarily like a textbook company or a curriculum company, but when you're searching for things online, or if you're researching, who wrote it? So was that written by an 8th grader? That could be inaccurate. So trying to make sure that the students are balancing, knowing when there's fact versus fiction, or if it's from a reputable source. So it just takes a little bit more training and teaching in order to make sure that you're staying on track, but then also getting the right information. You're actually learning versus not.
It's really helpful to have some media literacy units sprinkled into your curriculum so that students do understand those points. And it doesn't have to be something that, well, I didn't know, right? Like, no, we talked about this because we said, like, here's what a reliable source is, right? So,
or citing your sources, even like photographs, because people take pictures all the time, and it's an easy right click and add it to your project, but that's plagiarism. And teaching them that you can't do that. You have to cite your source, and not everyone wants that taken. So, it's really important to do. But also helping, when I was thinking about, when you were talking about the students that are on YouTube, there's a lot of software technology that teachers can use, like Synchronize or GoGuardian, where the teacher can actually have control and see everyone's device if it's all connected, and take control of a student's iPad or laptop or whatever and say, oh, your eyes are not here. Or I need to make an all class announcement. So all eyes on the teacher, everyone off.
Right.
So, fortunately, whenever there's a challenge, there's going to be someone that is going to step up to the plate to help and support teachers. So it's just learning what is out there and sharing that with each other. Right. Hey, I found this great idea, and, we can use this, and sharing it with your admin, because a lot of times you're going to need to buy it, but it's important.
Yeah. So recognizing that, a lot of these cons have, there are solutions out there to overcome them. Maybe the most important thing is that there's an easy way to overcome this fact that we are sometimes losing real life interaction, right? Yes. Because we are relying so much on some of these technology solutions. We just say, kids, it's time, this class period is all on whatever, Zabelzoot, right? Like, hop on there and you're going to do your whole class on this today. And pretty soon, not only are you losing engagement, even if it is super fun, because kids are just like, there aren't a lot of guardrails, right? But also they're losing the opportunity for real life interactions.
Both with teachers, where you can be pulling those small groups, and with each other. So when we're posting comments on a video, or like, one of the things that I like to do is use Flipgrid, which is great. So students can record something and record a video explaining a project or explaining a solution to an activity, and then students can respond and comment on it, which that's great. It's a great use of technology. But the problem is the students forget how to talk to each other. And they're like, I have a comment for you, let me go type it. Or it's really easy to leave a comment that's not so nice when you're not looking at the person. So you can say, that was the worst idea you have ever had, and I can't even believe that you would put that garbage on Flipgrid. And that's easy to type. But it
happens.
Yes.
Right?
It does. But I wouldn't say that to you. I would say something nice, because there's an emotion and there's a feeling when I'm talking to you, but it's easy to forget that there's a person behind that technology when you're doing it. So we need to teach both, right? Teach how to leave nice comments and how to delete that comment if that wasn't going to come across nicely. And then how to talk and how to use, just incorporating more discourse into the classroom.
Yeah. Constructive criticism is useful, but attacking someone is not, right?
Also, I think adults need to work on that as well too.
Ooh, 100%.
Don't we do the same thing too? It's really easy to post on Facebook or make a post on Instagram and say that was terrible, versus asking, because we lose a bit of communication when we're just making a post, right? So a YouTube video, there's going to be something where some communication's lost, or maybe the caption wasn't exactly correct, or I was just writing a couple words online, and instead of just saying, well, that was terrible, we can say, what did you mean by that? And did I understand you correctly? And you can say, no, you didn't understand correctly. And we talk and we teach how to do this in the classroom, in classroom discussions, but we need to do the same things in our technology, but also to model it as adults.
Absolutely.
Right? Talk nicely to each other and not call names when you disagree with me.
it's kind of like the entire world could use a little bit of a lesson on how to not be a troll. Right? And kids too. And I do feel that sometimes that conversation that they're practicing in these technology solutions can sometimes transition over into real life.
Right. Absolutely.
And so while these are all, we can say that these are all cons, they're all negatives to using technology, there are absolutely simple ways to resolve those things. And it's just called, teaching students how to have discourse in the classroom and outside in the world, right? How to provide constructive criticism or feedback, right? And maybe helping them set some boundaries when it comes to, being distracted, like helping them learn some skills to recognize when they went down the rabbit hole and like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I went from researching grizzly bears to looking at the Chicago Bears score from last night, right? Like it's just something that we all probably need a little bit more
reining
awareness.
it in ourselves and spending a little bit less time, because we do get sucked into that too. I was just thinking about one more thing that actually became a problem when we were completely online, even for like online schools, and that's the lack of writing and the lack of actually being able to use proper grip in pencils, and which leads to issues with cursive writing and stamina for writing long things. And there's so many reasons why technology is really super helpful, especially for kids that have those. It's again one of those chicken and egg things where I can type a lot faster than I can write, but I kind of need to learn how to do both, and I need to balance both. So if everything is required to be typed, I'm not going to build up that hand strength that it takes to hold a pencil correctly and to write something, because we can't type everything. I mean, we have to sign documents. I mean, we can use DocuSign now, but you have to write it at some point.
I have a child who's going into high school and he does not have a signature.
Yeah.
We're going to work on that this summer.
We're getting the signature, but even my younger one, he writes his letters upside down because he essentially self-taught himself through technology how to write in cursive or how to form different letters. And so it's upside down, which is very inefficient. And so then that impacts whether or not they're going to enjoy writing, or if they're going to become a writer, or, if you don't even want to write down the grocery list because it hurts your hand to write a grocery list. I mean, you're going to have some problems. So, but again, that chicken and egg, we have solutions for that. We can use voice text. We can use our notes app. And so there's a lot of things too. But I think giving the students the skills in both areas, giving that balance, hands-on labs, PhET simulations, where it's a combination of different things. So we see different environments, because that's what our world is. Our world is a mixture of environments. And as teachers, we need to educate them on using the real world things, but using the technology solutions, and see where they go from there. Give them those options so they can choose later, and not forcing one way or the other.
I think that is a great summary of where we're headed with technology. If we're looking to continue to move forward, right, we need to also remember that there are spaces where doing things a little bit more the old-fashioned way is still really relevant, right? Because we don't want face-to-face communication and real-life experimentation to be a thing of the past.
Right. Yeah, there's always going to be a need for both. And as we move along, I mean, one day I would love to see school time itself be shortened with the use of technology, but I think that's going to be up for our students to figure out how to develop and decide what they want, and new solutions for the different problems they're having. But again, it's going to be based on, this is a need that I had, and I'm going to develop something later on.
I like foreseeing the future, Lisa.
Yeah, through the students. That's great.
Well, thank you everyone for listening today to Education Uncharted, a Propello podcast. Hit that subscribe button to make sure that you never miss an episode. If you like what we shared today, please reach out. We would love to hear from you.
And don't forget to give us a rating and leave your comments and share with other education professionals. Share with us. Share with anyone that you think could use this. I mean, I know we have a lot of people that are very anti-technology, people that are very for technology. Share it with everyone. And let's get their conversation. Let's get that conversation going and started. And definitely let us know what your thoughts are and how you're using technology in the classroom. Until next time.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Lisa.